You're live.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Environmental Advisory Committee meeting. The date is Thursday, December the 12th. And I would like to call this meeting to order. Yes,
Test.
yes, sorry. Yes, the mic is on. Thank you. And I'd also like to acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The first item on the agenda is citizens' comments, and we have Susan Hill-Smith here to speak to us about some drones.
You might just sit at the table so you can think that way.
Okay.
This is easy.
Sorry.
I didn't pick it on
Yeah.
comments. Yeah, that's more comfortable.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for giving me this time to talk, and I'll just start first of all by thanking the any of the members who are exiting the after this meeting, finishing up their terms. Thank you very much for all that you've invested in this committee. And also, just a brief comment. This is not the main reason that I was going to talk, but I have been sharing some information or my thoughts on the Dominion's plan for removal of palmetto trees and the related issue of undergrounding power lines. And just generally, I want to remind everybody that Dominion is a for-profit company that is monopoly because of the how the state has structured things. And so while I appreciate their wanting to keep a safe environment for everybody that gets close to contact with the palmetto trees, they're going to be doing things as expediently as possible in terms of their removal plan, and that it's up to the city to stand up for the rights of the citizens and make sure that our community's voice is heard. But otherwise, I'm mainly here to talk about fireworks, and while it's December, and this isn't really something that will be a thing until July 4th, it actually is a budget item that deserves some consideration starting at the beginning of the calendar year. So I'd like to encourage this committee to explore and consider advocating for a drone show as a possible alternative to the Isle of Palms traditional fireworks show, which this has become a trend across the country. It is happening close to home. Folly Beach is switching its December 31st fireworks show to a drone show this year. Tybee Island, which has a group similar to Isle of Palms Cleanup Crew, did a drone show on Labor Day this past year. Tybee's outside of Savannah, for anyone that's not familiar. A similar community to Isle of Palms in terms of size. And they had positive reviews on their drone show. They do 3 fireworks shows a year, or did historically 3 fireworks shows a year on Tybee. So this was just, they were starting out with Labor Day as to sample how it went. They also do one on July 4th and New Year's Eve. But there's several reasons to consider a transition: noise pollution, the explosions disturb wildlife, pets, and some people, including those with PTSD, sea turtle nesting. There could be some impacts there. I'm sure I know Mary has a story that she could share along those lines. And I know it is common for dogs, including my own, to experience significant anxiety. But also, as the leader of Isle of Palms Cleanup Crew, this is really when the fireworks issue as a polluter got on my radar, because fireworks create trash that most people may just think when they explode it's all gone, but it has trash that winds up in the ocean and along the shore. It's not biodegradable. Air pollution is also with smoke and chemicals, but I'm bringing this to you now. Like I said, it's a budget issue that you should be looking at, hopefully at your January meeting, with the goal of making a recommendation by February or March to make sure that any budget considerations can be included in the fiscal year 26 budget when City Council puts that together. It could be covered with ATAX money. It could be potentially more expensive, but you would have the benefit of knowing that you're not polluting the ocean and causing other pollution when we're trying to celebrate our 4th of July.
Susan, do you know, can you find information about this? Like, can you Google it? Can you
Yes.
see samples of what a show looks like?
Yes, in fact, Tybee has something on, I think, if you go back through the Fight Dirty Tybee, they had put on Facebook some video of their show. I was going to follow up with some links. I mean, this has been featured in national news outlets like Parade Magazine. The Folly Beach Current has an article previewing their show. It doesn't show an example, but I'm sure you could come up with images. Of course, it's different from experiencing it. And I will say, I think it has evolved in its sophistication, and that now they can add music to it in some cases. So I'm not sure what the expense of that is, but that's also for the loss of the boom boom. You could still maybe have a element that adds back in the hearing of the experience.
That would be an improvement over the loud explosions
Yeah.
for all these reasons.
Right. Some people like that piece of it. I mean, I will say I like fireworks. You know, I enjoy fireworks, and it wasn't until I had to clean up trash after a fireworks show. The Isle of Palms cleanup crew, we definitely see a lot of trash on the beach that is fireworks after a
That
show.
came up in a discussion earlier in the year, I think. That came up in a discussion earlier in the year about the fireworks and the 4th of July, because they weren't self-policing themselves. They were just leaving it there for,
Right.
expecting either the city to clean it up or others.
I think I was
as recall.
aware of the people leaving trash. I think the debris of the fireworks themselves was kind of new to me. I didn't realize that the fireworks were, like you said, I kind of thought the casing was there. Whatever went up in the air exploded.
It does not.
And there was maybe some ash, but there's
There's
like plastics
there's
and
plastic
It comes in with the
pieces.
tide, or
Yeah.
does it go out?
It's along the shore. So,
So-
but this is I know Nicole is wanting
This is
us
not,
to
well, this is not a
Yeah.
agenda item.
move on.
so
It's,
we-
yeah.
Yeah, so-
So I would just encourage, I will gladly come back in January to
Yeah,
discuss
let's
this more
put
in
it on the
depth.
agenda.
But wanted to put it on your radar, and especially if you wanted to attend the Folly show to see what it's like.
Okay.
I will make
Thank you.
one comment, though. Personally, right now, I find drones to be a nuisance and air litter. So I'm not a fan of drones. They're going to become more prolific, and they're another form of pollution that we haven't even started discussing. Just ask New Jersey right now and New York, where they've got drones flying
They
over
would
the
be gone
Norman's.
after that night.
And so anyway,
Okay, let's move on. I know we have no presentations that are scheduled for this evening, is my understanding. So let's go into old business. And
What about
first one.
approving the minutes?
Oh, got it. Thank you. Thank you, yes. You guys received a copy of the minutes from the meeting on November the 14th. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
I move that they be accepted as submitted.
Is there a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, so back to old business. First item under old business is wildlife.
Okay. Nothing much going on. We were successful in winterizing the native plant garden, and Park Williams and I are going to share the expense of increasing the number of gourds since the purple martin colony was such a big success. So we're excited about that. And they have to be done by the beginning of February because they come back very early. So we're taking care of that.
Okay,
No expense.
all right, thank you. Next is litter, and I have not, I just have one minor update that I received. An attachment, an email with an attachment from Robert. It was essentially the the same as what we talked about last week with regarding beach litter management. He did include some highlighting in that. Did he send a copy of that to you,
Yes, yeah.
Douglas? Okay. And I think he just wanted to use the highlighting to clarify some of the information that we talked about. But I don't believe there was
It's a-
any significant change.
So I would just add to that Robert has been meeting with potential contractors that would do that work. I do think some of the numbers in the matrix have changed slightly based on his conversations with them about serviceability. It wasn't a huge change in my mind. There was a few that were going to be challenging and costly to service.
Okay.
So they modified it slightly based on the ability to service those. But the plan next steps with that is to have a discussion with council at their workshop in January. I think it's probably January 14th, maybe. And Robert's kind of preparing for that, taking that matrix and that model and working with the potential bidders on that work.
Right.
And we're gonna get council kind of warmed up to the idea of this modification before going out for bidding and all that.
Okay.
So
So
that's
did-
moving ahead.
Okay, so he sent a copy of the updates to you, right?
Yep. I
Okay.
asked him to, I just said, because you were part of building that
Right,
matrix,
yeah.
I wanted him to send it to you. And
Okay, and so we can distribute that to the
Yep,
group
yep.
at the January meeting then?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. The only other thing I wanted to mention with regards to litter that's kind of come to my attention personally, and something also appeared in social media recently, and that is where people who have pets and are collecting pet waste, there is a tendency to toss the pet waste bags onto piles of yard debris and into the, bags that are used to collect leaves and so forth. And I know that the yard debris, everything that's collected for that has to be compostable. And I don't believe that the waste from the dogs and the bags and all that, I don't believe is compostable. And so a lot of times what I see is like the yard waste is removed and the dog bags are left behind. And so I don't know if somebody's physically removing them from,
I didn't realize, so we have been seeing, and I think this may be the same social media post, where there is just a bunch of dog bags.
Right.
And in the photos that we were shown, they were on the bank of a drainage canal. So they were, they were going to be in the drainage canal
Right.
within,
well,
the
I think
next
this was
rain.
on
But
Waterway,
maybe that was-
closest to my
I think it is.
ditch. Yeah, because I
So you think there
recognized
was
it.
a pile there and somebody took them off the pile, put them on the ground, and then the pile got removed, leaving just the dog waste? Mm-hmm. Okay. We didn't have that part of the puzzle. The police are aware of it.
Uh-huh.
They've confirmed, that's illegal, it's littering. Challenge will be figuring out who to address. I think they believe that was an owner living nearby who thought that was an appropriate disposal of their bags, but it sounds like it might have been just people walking by, kind of
think
random
yeah.
walking by.
Yeah, I don't think
putting it-
it's just people maybe in that immediate area. I think that it's, people just out,
On the
walking with the
path,
dog.
on the
and-
multi-use path.
On the
they see a
multi-use
pile.
path. And so I don't know if at some point we might want to consider having some trash cans or something along that multi-use path, because I know we're going to be doing lots of updates to Waterway Boulevard. And maybe that's something that we need to think about in planning for that.
Is that area always, was that an anomaly? That
No.
they're always around that canal? Would that
Yes.
canal be,
Well, they tend to be almost any pile of yard waste. It's, I mean, I would say, and the reason that I notice it is because I had gotten into the habit of taking my yard waste to Waterway Boulevard because we've had a lot of construction in our neighborhood and trucks are blocking the access for where I could put yard waste, and so I had just taken it up to Waterway. And so in the process of doing that, one of the things that I had noticed is how many dog bags were kind of tossed into the pile of yard waste. And so I don't know if anybody comes and physically removes them from the yard waste, or whether in the process of picking that up with the equipment that the bags just fall off.
Well, I'll ask our Public Works folks if are you all getting out and picking the dog bags off?
I mean, I don't know that, I can't tell, you don't know.
Wouldn't think that they would do that. I would
I
think
don't-
that because they're dealing with,
Right, a big piece of equipment and not getting, yeah. So I don't know how they all end up on the ground, but there are a lot of them on the ground.
Yeah, because you would think if it was the homeowner, they would pick it up and throw it in their garbage can.
It's not the homeowner, I think it's just people who are out walking their
No, I'm
dogs
saying
and,
if the homeowner was looking in their leaf bag and taking it out, I
Uh-huh.
don't think they'd throw it on the ground. I think they would put it in their garbage can.
oh, right.
So
No,
that's
it's,
the
it's
that's the
not
mystery
the.
of how's it getting out of the
No,
bag.
it's not the homeowner that's putting it in the leaf bags. And I think it's people who are out walking their dogs and they don't want to carry that bag back to their house.
No,
And
that I
so-
agree with what I'm saying,
Yeah.
is that whoever's taking it back out of the bag,
Uh-huh.
if that was the homeowner, you would think they would throw the poop bag in the garbage can, not drop it on the ground.
Oh, yes,
So
yeah,
that leaves
yeah.
kind of a mystery as, because that, if I
How does it get
had a
on-
paper bag and
Yeah.
saw the poop in it, I'd take it out and put it in my garbage can.
Right, yeah, so we don't know how
It's a
it gets.
mystery.
Yeah, how
There's a
it,
little bit of a mystery there.
yeah. So we don't know exactly how it gets on the ground, but, sometimes there will be, 6 or 7 or 8 bags
no,
that are
good.
lying in a spot where there was formerly the yard waste.
Douglas, the police have the cameras on their vest. Can we get one of those installed on the claw in front of the, so we can
Yeah.
monitor
See
what
what's
they're
going
seeing?
on.
Or
Yeah.
leaf bag cameras.
Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, I think that's something that possibly we could maybe include with the goals and so forth for next year, is looking at addressing that, because I don't think my spot is particular.
anybody else notice that?
Yes, on
in your
Ocean
neighborhood?
Boulevard. Of course, we have the
What-
yellow cans on Ocean Boulevard. I
On Ocean.
often pull dog poop bags out and throw them in the yellow cans.
Are
Because,
they left on
but
leaf
most of
bags?
them, yes,
Yeah, that
occasionally, most of them get in the yellow cans, because they're always full of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it mostly works, but people just don't seem to know about the compost.
So maybe that
Issue.
I don't know how many people are plugged into the city's social media. If that would,
I think
to
that
just
would be a good
clarify,
one.
this is not a biodegradable. And
Yeah.
And this would be another example of, and we haven't done anything yet, but where, what's the Island News, little article?
Illinois.
It'd be nice, maybe, I'm going to reach out to the publishers and see if we can get just a little space, maybe once a month, or we can just, something like that.
That would be good.
Because we talked about doing that too for septic awareness, so I need to make a call to them anyway. So that would be a good one to put in there too. Hey, if you've got, either take it home or put it in a garbage bag, but don't put it in the leaf bags and don't put it in the recycling containers. Real simple.
Okay. And
Or
then,
otherwise, we're going to have to ban dogs.
then we, under litter is also a discussion of the lighting ordinance, and Todd, I think that was, I'm not sure how that got in litter, but it's light litter,
Light pollution.
light litter.
Light pollution.
Light pollution. see that?
Yeah.
So yep, that makes sense to me. Matt and I had a call with the folks at Folly Beach. Matt, you want to do a quick update on that? Or you want me to?
Sure, yeah, we kind of talked to Jenna Stevens and I think it was their building official, just to go how really they enforce their ordinance. And they've had it actually I kind of thought it was a newer ordinance, but it's been there for about 30 years. They just kind of, I think they said they reviewed it if they had it in the plans, but really they just kind of, they enforce it based on calls they get from locals. So that was pretty much
Right.
what I remember from it, yeah.
Right. So it was we were surprised at how long they've had it. We were surprised that, it's sort of forward-thinking ordinance, but at the same time, they were like, well, we don't go around measuring or monitoring. We just wait for somebody to call. So that's okay, right? I mean, that's some of the ordinances we have here in Alapalms probably fall in that same category, right? We're not.
Noise,
saying
very much that way.
Yeah,
Right.
noise. But there's probably others. But anyway, it was good, and they also wanted to collaborate as we go forward on this, if there's anything that we're doing that they would benefit from. So we're looking at, there's 4 communities, Edisto, Kiowa, Folly, and Sullivan's. We're going to look at the lighting ordinances that they have in place today, put together a summary. We don't have that ready yet, but we'll have it for January. And just look at what, some of the other areas that others are covering, but a theme that's already started to pop up is, everybody's focused on the beachfront. Everybody's got beachfront covered. We do too. Marsh was not something that we've particularly called out or highlighted. Several of the other communities have. And so, just any type of native wildlife, wetland area are covered by some of the ordinances on some of the other communities, on their city ordinances. So maybe something we could look at is, not just replicating what we do on the beach, on the marsh, might be a quick win. And then looking at some other things. We do have some lagoons and other, kind of natural areas that we could talk about as well.
I do feel like island-wide, considering, just the pollinator effect, just the damage to pollinators, just the danger that, light pollution has on that, that's not really exclusive to the lagoons.
Fair, yeah.
I guess if we need to modulate, if it becomes controversial, we can be targeted, but I'd like to start personally with an island-wide.
Yeah.
Well, I'm bringing up a point. I think it goes beyond just wildlife. There's lights on my street that are just bleeding through my windows that are affecting my wife and my guests' sleep.
Yeah.
I have a neighbor across the street who's renting, and he has this blaring light on a timer, and I have to call his property manager and ask if they'll do something about it. But I have a street light too that is very, very bright. And
So that's definitely part of the business case, was the
Cool.
human aspect too. Let's protect the
Thank you.
humans and
That's
the
the point I
wildlife.
was trying to
Yeah.
make.
I
Yeah.
wanted
Sorry.
to add streetlights to our
Yeah.
concern, because as you know, Dominion is changing over from what we have, the Cobra lights. They want to put some kind of possibly high-intensity LED lights, and they offer, like Folly did, they offer alternatives such as low-intensity LED
Yeah.
lights plus amber lights, which don't affect wildlife. Turtles don't see that wavelength. And I want us to make sure that we give our input to the city. Before, I had talked to Desiree about it once, and she said, "Don't worry, we'll check with the turtle team." Well, I think this committee should be involved with that, too. I would like to see amber lights on the front beach. She said that would be more expensive, but just on the front beach, if they're going to put in new bright street lights,
Yeah.
I really think they should be. And for the rest of the island, we could request low-intensity LEDs rather than the really, really bright ones.
So some of the
Yeah.
4 cities ordinances actually do cover streetlights as well. And then Mary, I think you had shared an article on, it was Georgetown Heritage Plantation, where the community had worked with Sandy Cooper and got low-intensity amber lights instead of the bright lights
Yeah.
for the streets in that fairly large development.
I remember SCE&G used to come out and paint the side of the bulb that would shine onto the beach on Ocean Boulevard and any other place. If we gave them the number on the pole, they would paint out that light. Of course, when that one burned out, we had to get them to do it again. But this is a whole different thing with the LED lights, because they're smaller and you can't do anything like that. But they
Yeah.
were cooperative about wildlife and the lights pollution on the beach.
We saw some good stuff, and next month we'll talk about it. We saw things around the shield that forces the light to go down instead of out.
Shielded is good,
We
yeah.
saw things about the painting on the inside of the structure, because the way that it reflects the light off of the structure, you can, what you're saying, if you paint one side of it, you can keep the reflection off of the light from going sideways. So there's different things that they've done for the commercial districts, for streetlights, and then for residential, that I think we can pull together from these 4 communities, and plus what we've already done, and put together something that maybe is cover all set.
The Folly Beach one that I shared.
There was 2 of them.
There was an article,
That was,
yeah.
yeah, we have both of
Yeah,
those.
We had that in our packet one time.
Yeah. Perfect, yeah. So we'll be prepared to talk about that in January and come back with at least a summary of what's out there, and then we can talk about what we think is the right path forward. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. Doug, what about water quality?
I have the results. We did receive the results. I tabulated them. I did not get the chance to get them out to everybody, and I've just started to analyze them. But there is, so if you look at the general parameters, I would say with the exception of coliform, from feces and animal and human waste, high in most cases, exceeding the maximum limits of 2,420. There are a couple that were low. One was down as low as 21. One was at about 574. But in general, they're high, above 2420. I personally don't think it's all attributable to just animals and mammals. I think it's a combination of septic, and all that. The other things like suspended solids, we had a couple, I think the folks behind Harris Teeter, the city might want to ask them to clean up a little bit behind and keep a cleaner operation back there. There was a little bit of suspended solids. But oil and grease, nitrogen, phosphorus, everything was fairly low. I mean, our stormwater looks relatively innocuous. We wouldn't fall under specific numerical parameters or limits for the stormwater. Generally, with the stormwater, it's what they call anti-degradation. So wherever you're discharging, if you're discharging into, they don't rate this. DHEC, sidebar, DHEC doesn't necessarily call this Hamlin Creek. I don't know if there's another name for it, but they rate each body of water. It's classified. These, I think, are probably shellfish, SFH or SHF. So your stormwater shouldn't be degrading the water it's going into. And I don't think any of the results we see here have that impact, but I'm still going through that assessment. And I'll probably call DHEC and discuss this with them and get some input on it. I'll share this one, and anybody who wants to do additional research as well, I think we collaborate on them. Now, PFAS, we did detect PFAS, what I would call low levels, but above detection limits in some cases. They're the individual compounds are the common ones that you typically would see. I'm not going to start throwing out acronyms because your head will start hurting. But of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are currently regulated under the Safe Drinking Water Act and under another federal regulation that doesn't impact pollution, it impacts notification, they're higher than safe drinking water levels that have currently been promulgated by EPA. But there are currently no levels right now for surface water or storm water or anything. So for instance, 17, 8.7, 12.3, 8.13, and those are nanograms per liter. So think of a nanogram per liter as one orange golf ball among a trillion golf balls. Just to give you an idea of how small that is.
Wow.
But PFAS is being regulated at that level. The ones that were found high was what we call PFOA, which is one of the regulated, it has now a maximum contaminant level under the drinking water standards. That and PFOS, which were they're the two most common that you would have probably found in consumer goods and the different things that we would be using as consumers. They were in the double digit, and we had one that was actually 120 nanograms per liter. I will summarize all this and get it out to us and to everybody.
We can understand it.
Review it a little bit, and then I think we put it as an agenda item for review, review and discussion of the meaning of the results and proposed actions. I don't know what's going on, who's going to be still on the committee. Have we heard anything yet of?
So the three of you are being replaced.
We are being replaced,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was a lot of interest in the group. If you didn't kind of jump to claiming your seat, I think they
I don't object to that. I just want to make sure that there's a handoff now. Laura, right, will still be on it, and she's our champion for water. So what I'll do is I'll work with Laura to make a clean transition of the results. So from an accomplishment standpoint, we got it done. Took us a full term, took us 3 years in the term, but we got it done.
Yeah, I was just thinking, oh my God, we started this process 3 years ago.
We got it done, and I'd
And
say
we finally, yeah.
this is one of those items where we were able to go through the process of getting money allocated from the city to do some evaluation and assessment work. So thank you to to the council and to the folks. Matt, we've got to get through this and then process invoices,
Yeah.
but they can wait for their money.
So, just kind of thinking
Yeah.
of next steps, in this group interface with, the water keepers group
I was
early
gonna,
on.
I was
Would they be
thinking
good
of sharing these results with water keepers and get their input as well.
to just,
Maybe
they
so.
seem like a benchmark
Yeah.
across
Yeah, no, I
communities.
think we share them with them, and like I said, I'll probably make a call to DHEC and talk to their stormwater and surface water quality people and just get their perspective. But I was reading through, and I've done this in the past, as I said, I've been reading through the regulations, trying to understand the interpretation. So I will write those things up to the best of my ability, and then we'll share them with everyone, and we'll share with the water keepers and work these. And I'm happy to come back in January as a concern, as a citizen, and, if we want to, I can present on the agenda item and go through everything, and we can talk through it as for closure. And then I can make myself available, just like others on other litter and everything else, I can make myself available as a quote-unquote, citizen consultant as we move forward. I have no objection if I'm not replaced. I understand there's other people, and I might be going back to work.
So now, I'm looking at the E. coli and the chloroform and the fecal chloroform.
Yep.
And-
Coliform is,
Yeah, so it was greater than 2420. That seems kind of, is that high?
that's high, yeah. It's above it's actually above what they can detect anymore. What they're essentially doing is they're counting the number of, I think it's colonies per milliliter. So it's above. So when they say greater than, they couldn't measure it anymore.
Do we know how that compares to other creeks?
That's part of the assessment that I want to do.
Okay, because I know James Island is dealing with like really bad coliform pollution that I think is directly tied to all the septic there. So knowing if we have like that situation of like, oh, this is notoriously bad, I think that'd be really helpful for us.
Yeah, we had a similar, if you recall, Matt was out there with test tubes early on, and we were getting these
We saw
off-the-chart
this,
readings.
this is the same results we
Right.
saw. They were
Kind
high.
of similar, and when it's off the charts, you literally don't know, is it barely off the chart? Is it way off the chart? And you just don't know, so we're
it's
getting a
not
similar.
good.
Yeah, one of the
Not
things
that
we
much.
could do, one of the recommendations we could make, if we're looking at an anti-degradation policy, so to speak, where we don't want our stormwater to be worse than the creek it's going in, we could recommend maybe having some samples taken from the center of the creek itself to see what the background is. Because if you go into the creek and the creek's greater than that, see what some of the upstream and downstream, that's one thing. Just to suggest, just an example of one action that we could recommend. But any other questions there, Sandra? Yeah, so all that, like I said, I've tabulated the results. I'll add some narrative to this. I'll do some assessment and share it with everyone. And, share your comments, and see if we can get this summarized for the January meeting. And like I said, if I'm not reappointed, I'd be happy to come back and address this as a citizen through that method.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
I don't know, Douglas, if you had some information regarding an update on the city engaging the federal lobbyist?
Yeah, we've talked a couple of times about this. This is kind of a council initiative that they are working through. I do think there is an interest in, I think at least some members of council have an interest in keeping the lobbyist work within the existing firm that's hired by the city. They have a partnership at the federal level. So I think there's some interest in using the Ferguson Group. So there are a few different firms being kind of talked to about being engaged. But either way, I think that, that work is underway at the council level.
So
I
would
would
that-
just, I would say that council's kind of objective with doing that is, I would say pretty specifically, beach drainage, kind of city infrastructure. You know, I think that Laura kind of got engaged on the sewer side of this equation, and the Water and Sewer Commission is obviously a different function. They are also pursuing the idea of a federal lobbyist, and it could be that we share some expense if possible with that. But just for the clarity of this board, the city's interest in engaging a lobbyist is not the sewer system. I think that
So you
that would
said
be-
beach is the first priority, and then drainage?
beach and drainage are the, you know, those are the two.
Beach renourishment?
Yeah,
Did you mention a third one? I think beach drainage, and was there one more that
probably
you?
just infrastructure improvements.
Okay.
I think,
But not, because water and sewer are specifically outside of the city's authority, I don't think the council is pursuing money for expanding the sewer system. I think that would be something that the Water and Sewer Commission would pursue, and I think they are doing that.
And
So
what-
Laura may know, she's kind of stayed on top of that with Chris Jordan at the Water and Sewer Commission. So she may have additional information about that.
now, unrelated and separate from the water and sewer, when we talk about drainage, we can tie in surface water quality, because it's drainage, but that drainage, right now, they're dealing with it from a volume and
Right.
flooding standpoint. But the Water and Sewer Authority is not responsible for the quality of that water. So one could argue that while we're talking about surface water drainage, we should be also looking for maybe assistance if we do any water quality issues, that the lobbying would go into that effect as well. Because remember what we said is we're looking is to see if the septic is causing water quality issues that would be beyond the water and sewer. And if
Right.
it is, then we can go back, then we have to go back to water and sewer and say, look, and the council and say, we've got water
Right.
quality issues that will not be solved by, because remember, this goes all the way back to, should we put some sort of filter mat down at the end of
Right.
right? And we say, let's not jump to end of pipe, let's figure out that. So just something to think about.
Definitely tied at the hip. I mean, the two systems
Yeah.
are definitely tied.
And that would fall outside the purview or the administration and governance by the water and sewer, because they're not responsible for surface water. So just a thought point when you think
Yeah.
about that.
And then you were talking about, the city was looking at potentially working with an existing firm, or
Yes.
perhaps working with Ferguson,
Yes.
or there were several options. So does the call for proposals have to go
Yeah, and
out for that?
That
Is
has happened, I would say informally.
Okay.
We have two proposals. Council is, and they're weighing,
Okay.
this idea of, do we keep it in-house, or do we go to a new, different firm? I think that's part of it's both of them are budgetary items.
Right.
It's not in this existing budget, so kind of like the trash cans, it's being talked about, being, in some form or fashion, being included in next year's budget.
When does the next budget year start? Is it a January
Starts at-
1st, or is it July?
It starts July 1, but
July 1,
they
okay.
start in earnest planning January 1.
Yeah, okay, okay, all right, thank you. Belvin, climate action, anything that you want to update us on?
Well, so Douglas shared Susan Hillsmith's email on the Dominion tree kerfuffle that we've been discussing for the past bit. And actually, it'd be good to just pull that up, because that is what we're directly talking about, is the concern with letting Dominion go straight ahead with what they've been doing, without sort of taking an independent look at hiring an arborist, because the concern is that, what I think Susan mentioned, when you tally up the value or the cost of replacing all of these trees, it's could be well over $100,000. So taking a sort of mitigation attempt to say, okay, can we please pause this process? Because we're hearing from some citizens on the island that they really do not think their tree is of concern to the power lines. They think the classification that Dominion has provided is overzealous and uncareful, and that if we were to just pause and take an independent look at, we could save a number of trees that we would ultimately want to be replanting anyway, which makes a lot of sense to me. So I guess I'd love to know others' thoughts on that.
So has there been any work to identify what trees have been identified for removal that are in areas that are priority areas for underground power lines?
The only one that I'm aware of is the project that's underway, the undergrounding project that's underway already at 14th Avenue. I think there were 2 or 3 palms that were identified right there as those lines are going under. And I think those 2 or 3 palms were, I believe they were taken off the list.
Okay, uh-huh,
The issue they're creating will be gone, within the few weeks.
okay,
So I think a few.
uh-huh,
To my knowledge, none other than those few, but to that end, there isn't another undergrounding project that's imminent, like in the next few
okay.
months.
I thought there were.
There are projects on their drawing board. They have a list that they run through,
Okay,
but they are on pace to do about one a year. And
Is
they're just,
14th the
and
one?
14th is the one this year, so it's probably at least a year before they do their next one.
Well, while we're talking about undergrounding, this is a digression from the arborist bit. But Susan raising that there is use it or lose it provisions, that basically there is a pot of money that Dominion either uses within, 5 to 6 years, to underground, or they just don't have to do that project.
Right.
And so basically, if we let the timer run out, it seems like Dominion is quote unquote getting away with not actually using the funds that's supposed to be mitigation funds to going towards undergrounding. Is that the case?
That is the case, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that is part of that fund. So to kind of, jumping around a little bit, but on the undergrounding effort, the Public Facilities Committee of Council is having Dominion come to their January meeting. The council has always prioritized, and I think this is my opinion, but I believe it to be fact, prioritized kind of aesthetic impact first in their list. So they've created a list of projects. Part of them were around here, around City Hall, but the majority of them recently have been 41st, the Marina, and that kind of entryway to the Marina. Those projects have been designed. They came back as kind of budget busting projects, over $1 million. So those are the next ones on our list, but the funds are not in that account, and the city doesn't have the matching funds to do those. So what they are wanting to do and planning to do is to call Dominion in to see if those funds could be used to develop a master plan for all of the lines on the island. And in that master plan, identify not only aesthetics, but reliability issues. So kind of a grading scale so that the council can choose, kind of pick and choose their list based on not only low-hanging fruit of, okay, you guys can we can get these 4 smaller projects done and use the balance of that fund. So kind of a way to reduce the loss through the revolving use it or lose it process, and get more kind of fill-in projects along the way. And also, again, this pivot to going away from prioritizing solely aesthetics and get into things, and
Function.
clearly, resilience is going to be those with trees around them. Those are going to be the ones that are impacted. So we've had initial conversations with Dominion. They seem agreeable to this concept. We know that they've done it with another community where they have used that money to fund this list. It will make creating that priority list of council much less kind of kind of much more strategic. Right now, again, it's kind of like, let's just put these three in front of them and see which ones they can chew off quickly. And it just, they are, again, kind of doing one a year. They're kind of choosing a project each year, and they've been doing one project a year. But the next priorities are very big, very expensive projects, and we're probably staring down a period of going with some gaps, that projects don't get done. The more projects don't get done, the more is falling off that revolving fund.
At the current pace, I don't know if you know the answer, at the current clip pace that they're operating under, one project a year roughly, how many years before they get completely?
Maybe 100?
That's,
I mean, it literally is kind of
so there's a
three,
an
four
opportunity
polls,
cost, right?
3 or 4 polls are getting done per
Yeah.
year, and I would guess that there's
Yeah.
300-400 polls.
Yeah.
This is always, I've been through this, I used to work with the utilities and back in the old days, and this is a difficult one. Because we want our power and electricity and our cable and everything after storms. We don't want it to go down yet. We love our trees and our birds and our habitats. This is a tough one, and because what happens is they lose the power, they get sued, and you get. And on the other hand, if they try to cut the trees to avoid the disruptions, they get sued. So I don't feel bad for them. This is it's a very complicated situation, and it's not just us. It's every community that has to go through this. The ultimate solution is, what they do in new developments, which is you bury all the utility lines. Just like converting over to sewer, it's expensive when you have to do a retro. And so you've got to, this is one where it's hand-to-hand combat to figure out. It's hand-to-hand negotiation and discussion to come to a happy medium. And no one's going to be happy, but it's an example of consensus. And if everyone agrees to consensus, then you come up with a plan and you move forward. But it's complicated, and it's going to be, no one's going to be completely happy.
Yeah, the other challenge, and it's a big one, well, there's 2 big ones that they consistently, or they remind us of this, is that if you look up in those power poles and you see a transformer, you see a big tube up, a big cylinder up there, every one of those has to get replaced with a big green pedestal on the ground.
Yeah.
They will not place that big green pedestal in anywhere other than a 15 by 15 easement on somebody's property. So all of this work has significant easement acquisition involved with it. And that in and of itself is, it's banging your head against a wall, trying to get easements given for these new pedestals. The other challenge that they have is those pedestals are obviously at ground level. They can be put in where the entire island is prone to flooding. So you're then putting electricity in an area that could potentially be impacted by floods.
Yeah.
So they tell us that they're less likely to have an issue, but when they do have an issue, it's much more challenging to fix than you drive down the street, you see a transformer switched or a line down, you identify it, you can fix it. With underground, you obviously don't know what you're. So I will say, they don't appear to me to be red hot to put everything underground, which I would have thought that it would be a benefit to them, that it becomes a more reliable system. They don't seem to, they're not clamoring for what I'm thinking is a more reliable system, and they tell me, hey, it looks better, but it is fraught with issues. But really, this acquisition of easements turns out to really be a real challenge.
Gotcha. Well, so I guess to summarize, the council is convening in January to try to address the fall off of the 5 to 6 year timeline, trying to get smaller
Yes.
projects in place that don't have all the issues that these bigger, more ambitious locations
correct.
have. Okay,
Yeah, that's correct.
that's good to hear.
And it will be, that will make that prioritization much easier. Have a list of all of them, we can, again, kind of, if we can't get a big one done, we'll say, okay, let's just fill in with these 3, 4, lose less money, but keep the ball rolling. But It's a long road, kind of like sewering the entire island. It's the same exact, but that's an example. We have a master sewer plan. Water and Sewer Commission is working off that. It's slow, but it's happening, as
Yeah.
time and money permits.
But this is another example of the complexity that goes along with right-of-way designation that people don't necessarily understand, is if you look at any given property on a street, most people have usurped the right-of-way as part of their yard, but legally, it's not on their survey. So if I look at my house, my driveway goes out and then it's split, and then there's another piece. My property line only goes to 15 feet past my house, not the 25 that's there. That other 10 is the public right-of-way. And if those public right-of-ways weren't usurped by the residents, our drainage would improve because the swales that were all filled. We'd be able to be easier to get those easements set for the grinder pumps, and you'd be able to easier to get those easements set for the for these green transformer things. But people have taken over the right-of-ways and tried to take those back. Don't talk about another complicated issue. We went through that, and I had a homeowners association, we had public right-of-ways, and property owners started to take them away, and it cost us $3, $4, $5 million in lawsuits over 7 years. Our HOA fees went up.
Well, to circle back to the question of perhaps the city hiring an independent arborist to double check Dominion's assessment, I guess the viability of that depends on us being able to successfully get Dominion to pause because they're just currently cutting.
Right.
And then us having the funds to hire the arborist. Those would maybe be the two requirements for that, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, they are, from my perspective, they have kind of done their public outreach, been to council, told everybody that this is when we're going to start. These are the trees we're going to cut. Here's the list. They've started that kind of, not that without issue, but with an understanding of city council of we get it. We understand. Thank you for the heads up. There was not, I would say that from my perspective, there was not kind of an upheaval of, pause, let us study it some more. The other part of, I guess, the discussion from my standpoint, and we've had these discussions with Dominion as recently as today, is to be on that list, it is as simple as a clearance. I mean, it has nothing to do with the viability of the tree or the health or the vigor or any, so it really is and as you all probably know, Matt is a certified arborist, but it really is just a measuring exercise. If it's within, and there are different categories of these trees, but for category 1, I think if it's within 5 feet of a line, it's on that priority category 1 list. So I think the only thing an arborist would be doing would be taking that measurement. And I don't know that requires an arborist.
Well, maybe this is, it seems like the citizens who have sort of brought up concerns is usually related to, it seems like my tree is mature, it seems like even if it's like 5 feet away, it's not going to grow the rest of the
Right.
way, that it would actually be an issue.
Right. That to me, I get that, and I think there's validity there, but an arborist would not be able to, if it's within 5 feet, it's within 5 feet. So I don't think that they're going to relax their standard if they're convinced it's less than 5 feet, but we don't think it'll grow quickly. I just can't see how Dominion would, I think it's, and I'm telling Susan, I feel like it's very much like our setbacks. Our side setback is 10 feet. You might have a very compelling reason why 10 doesn't make sense for your property.
But the policy is the policy.
Maybe you're next to a beach access that'll never be built, or you're next to a golf course that'll never be built. But the policy is what the policy is, and there's no kind of, you start, from a policy standpoint, you start relaxing those for
Makes it
folks.
tough.
It's going to be very tough for them. So I don't think that, you know, first of all, I don't know that that an arborist would, I guess if we thought that an arborist testifying to Dominion, this tree is within your clearances, but it's growing slowly, if we thought that was gonna make a difference, then I would say, then by all means, let's, but from our discussions with them, it's just very much a binary. It's either
It is
in the clearance
yes
or
or
it
no.
isn't.
Yeah.
You know, we talked a little bit about how are you measuring? Is it from a laser accuracy? And they said, no, it's not, but we don't, our own OSHA standards that we adhere to tell us we can't go put a tape measure or get within that close. So it is a measurement of 5 feet taken at the ground, a visual inspection. Also ask, well, what if you have a palm tree with a frond that's an anomaly? It's reaching into the 5 feet, but you could clip it back. And they said, well, in that state, that tree would have been classified as a class 1.
I
But
guess-
if somebody clipped it right before we got there, it may have not had it in a class 1. So there is kind of some, I wouldn't call it funny business, but an owner could have clipped that frond before they inspected it, got it off the class 1 list. But they said, you want to be very careful about advising people to go within 5 feet of a power line and using clippers to clip anything. 'Cause
Sure.
that also would be a.
Well, just so I'm
an
clear, Dominion's authority, and then the city's ability to basically be at the table and negotiate, say yes or no to things. I mean, is it contractual? Is it like in the Dominion power contract that they get to do this? Is that like sort of the?
It is, as it's explained to us, it is within their agreement, their service agreement with every individual customer,
Okay.
that customer has given them that permission at each property individually. If that customer wanted to debate that, they certainly could, but it would be between that customer and Dominion. We do not have, the only thing that we have with Dominion is a franchise agreement.
Right.
That is money that basically comes back to the city for the benefit of them having a franchise here. But it is silent on this, and, as you all know, this is, tree cutting and tree removal has been a hot button issue with the power department for ever, since they've
Yeah.
had power lines. So it's not a new thing, but that's the long-winded answer of, I don't think the city has any authority to stop them. They've been a very forthcoming, they've told us everything that they're gonna do. They don't try to hide anything. I mean, they'll come and they'll talk to us. And I think, they had a long kind of process that you all know about at Sullivan's Island. And they did modify their practices as a result of those conversations, which has worked well. Just as way of, we talked about the fact that it's underway. I think they've told us today they've removed 120 of the 290-ish trees that are on the list to be removed. Well, we are aware of a handful of owners who have worked directly with Dominion on, how they were categorized. I don't know that any would say that they've been successful in that. I think they were given more information about why their tree is in the classification that it is, and
Are you talking about Sullivan's Island?
here,
Or here? Okay.
here, yeah.
Yeah. I know that, are we, any other information that you needed to share with us about the
Not
Dominion?
that I.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Because I know that one of the things I wanted, I'm looking at the clock over there. I know that one of the things that Belvin had talked about earlier was about
Leaf blowers?
leaf blowers.
Yeah, well, so I think we've discussed this off and on, and there are all sorts of options. And Just to jog my memory, did we come to the conclusion that the recreation department's fleet of leaf blowers, the idea is like once those are at retirement age, we'll be switching over? Is that?
I don't know that they've committed to that. I know
Okay.
that we have talked to the Public Works Department, to the Recreation Department. I do not know that there's a commitment to it.
Okay.
But
Well,
can we ask, what's their objections? When I hear that, it sounds like they've stated their objections.
Probably efficiency.
Yeah, I don't know that they've stated their objections.
I don't understand, because when I go there in the morning, the yard works people are just blowing leaves everywhere. I thought they hired somebody else, another contractor, to do their leaf blowing.
The rec department?
The rec department.
They have both. They have, the
Okay.
fields are done by outside maintenance, and then they do some.
This is on the street.
Yeah,
where you
yeah,
park.
they do some, and they outsource some.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear what their objections are.
yeah.
Out
I
of
mean,
Before you
Yard
just say
Works is
no,
gonna
it's just
agree
like,
to
what
it.
are your specific, and then the other side of it is, why ask?
yeah. So there have been.
You know,
Why ask what?
why ask them?
Oh,
When they
what?
get a new leaf blower, the
Oh.
procurement standard for the city says that you have to get a non-electric, you have to get a non-gas fire. They don't have a choice.
Yeah, I think it'd be
Sometimes
nice.
you give people too many options. You just change the procurement standard. That's how a lot of folks do it in industry.
Yeah, I mean, so
And other
from the
forms of
conversations around leaf blowers I'm familiar with, some folks have reluctance to switch to electric. Part of it is perception. There's the perception they're not as strong. My understanding is that there are at this point very accessible electric models that have very powerful blowing capabilities. Maybe in the past it was harder to get access to those, but you can go to Lowe's and like get access to good electric leaf blowers today. And convenience with like the charging. You know, if you just have to do this, you'll realize you need more oil, and there's not that, oh, I forgot to charge this and now it's a headache thing. But I think that being said, the human health effects of leaf blowers, it's NO, like a localized oxide that's really not good for human health.
The noise.
The noise pollution is awful. I mean, that's sort of the number one thing. In terms of island livability, like I can't think of a bigger nuisance than leaf blowers. And I think bigger picture, it's controversial, but I think moving towards some island-wide thing would be great. But just starting with, as a city, having a procurement standard of like, it doesn't even have to be replaced tomorrow. It's once these are retirement age, that's very low-hanging fruit, I think, and a good start. Other municipalities too have had time restrictions on when you can use noisy leaf blowers. I think those are totally reasonable. And I think one thing we can also do is like highly encourage any lawn service group we work with to use electric. Maybe when the contract is up.
The RFP, the
Having an
specification says
RFP.
that I mean, again, there has to be a will to do that, to change procurement rules and things. The city, the committee's gonna, or the council's gonna have to agree to that, but those are obviously things. And people are gonna bring up different objections. I'm gonna say, oh, you're just shifting it to from the gas there to the electricity plant and the coal or the natural gas, whatever they're burning there, but it's a start. I mean, that's what
It's
Charleston,
cleaner.
when we were
Yeah.
participating on the plan, the climate action plan for Charleston, those are one of the little, what do you call them, the low-hanging fruit items that, and it's, part of it was because the person who runs the rec and the parks was very gung-ho on it. And I think he was very.
Yeah, the city
embraced it.
has, at this point, I think, transitioned pretty much all of their leaf blowers to electric, City of Charleston.
That's where we
yeah.
encountered that on the climate action plan for Charleston. That's where, yeah.
So, I mean, I think starting to follow that example would be great. In terms of, I guess, that procurement policy and like the next RFP,
With the citywide landscaping?
yeah, which I think would be a great step. Who would that go through?
Well, so the big council ultimately decides, what bids to seek and which ones to accept. The staff writes up the requests for proposals. Whether or not, and not really sure how you would even structure it, but you probably would do a bid alternate, because I think we hear from landscaping companies that that they just wouldn't bid because they don't have that equipment. So it could probably be done in, that there's a standard bid and then there's a bid alternate. That would be, standard bid might be electric, bid alternate might be gas. I do, this issue has been kind of bounced around for years, and council at least once has considered an ordinance that didn't get enacted. The kind of fallback position was, let's just start with the city fleet, staff, equipment being, I would say to Doug's point, I have not seen the willingness to kind of buy into doing it so far. I don't know if it's a timing thing. If it, maybe the test would be if it was completely financially neutral, didn't cost any more money to do it at that point. I mean, that probably gets them there. So maybe a bid with a bid alternate.
Yeah, there's always, we've done this before too. You could do a pilot program too. You could spec out the proper leaf blower and give it to two or three of them, give them to different groups, let them try them and see how they react.
Yeah, I mean, actually, budgetarily, I don't know. I guess I don't know how many leaf blowers are used, but they're below $200 a pop. I mean, that is an opportunity potentially if we're willing to pay a little bit for IP leadership to.
Yeah. I sent you both. There's a company out there that's franchising called Clean Green Air Lawn. And so they actually franchise businesses that use, so I sent it to you. I mean, I don't know if there's any specs or standards that are in there, but I've talked to them a little bit. I'm like, just not quite sure if the market demand's there yet, but I've sent it to you via email. You can take a look to see if there's anything in there that might give some direction as to how you go about speccing out or requesting that. Maybe there's a local franchise that does it and they can be asked to bid. They don't have to be awarded, but maybe at least they're included in the bid process. That's a good starting point too.
I can look into that as well.
Okay.
I'm going to have to leave at 5:25 because I have a call coming in at 5:30.
Okay. So why don't we go ahead and move on to the next item, which is new business. And what I did was I compiled a list of things that the EAC has accomplished over the last year, and I also, since this is my last meeting, and I also put together just a kind of a short list of potential goals, and I got some additional information from Mary today, so I'm going to add that to the goals for next year as well. But I just wanted to take a minute to just acknowledge some of the work of the committee members here. I think Belvin with his, and Matt with the ability to get the award for the grant that you guys submitted in probably a record amount of time, and to be able to actually get the approval for, get the money for the solar panels, and then understand that that's been bid out, and that installation will begin after the first of the year. Is that right?
They're working on it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a really great accomplishment, and I'm learning that things take time. I mean, we've been working on this for a year, and it's almost coming to fruition. So, and Todd, I want to especially thank you for the work you did with Chandra in terms of helping to identify the information that needs to be included on the Environmental Initiative's website, and kind of giving her some guidance with regards to how that might want to look, and I think it came out very nicely.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think that's been really good. And Doug, thank you for the work that you've done in terms of putting together the water quality testing. I know that it took some time, you did, but it was so, being able to come up with all the specifics, what you're going to test for, where you're going to test, who's going to do the testing, getting all the budget information for that. Was a big project for us. And so it's exciting to see that accomplished and look forward to hearing more about the results from that.
We have data.
Yay. And
John,
man,
Delvin, and Laura, the folks that were on the little subcommittee, and everyone else, thank you as well
Yeah.
for supporting it, and better late than never.
well, I think that, it's like I said when I was talking about the solar panels, things take time. And Mary, your work with the native plant garden this year has been just like unbelievable, because not only did you do, kind of coordinate all the clearing of the plot and planting the plants, which is kind of like what the initial concept was. Then we started talking about bringing in the Purple Martin gourds and the benches and the nice sign and the QR and the code, so that you could find out about all the plants, and then the little the copper tags for all the different plants. So this. What started out is kind of conceptually was having a garden, and we clear the plot and we plant the plants, just became something that was really, I think, very special. And also, after that was
A
done.
lot of people did a lot of work, not just me.
Well,
It was a pleasure.
But at the end, I felt like that Mary was the one getting the water hose and keeping everything watered, and then kind of finishing out the year and everything. I thought that was, just really a great accomplishment. So, I think that the committee has done a lot of great things this year. We did some work with Robert in terms of really looking at managing that beach litter and what do we want to have for our future. Can we get something that is going to be, functional, that's going to be a closed system, that's going to be aesthetically pleasing, that's something that can be efficient, that we can locate cans in such a way that we don't have to get a crew in every time we're going to have a high tide or a storm to move all these cans off the beach and then put them back on after it's over. And so I think we've got some good suggestions and thoughts to start with, so hopefully that can be carried forward as well. And then,
Sandra, before you move on to, are you moving on to next year or things, or are you still doing the summary?
hang on
I
just a
wanted to make
second.
sure we recognize you for your
Yeah,
leadership.
I was
And the
wanting to do
direction.
that,
Thank
too.
you.
Not that, again, it changes hands every year, but I think you kept us on track. You
And she
helped-
did it for 2 years.
For 2 years.
She did
And-
double duty.
Pleasure. It was a real
And I think
pleasure.
you've also put time into a lot of, into the garbage, looking at the cans and the litter. So not only were you herding the squirrels and keeping things moving forward, but you took on some initiatives yourself. So thank you for 2 years of chairpersonship.
Really good
And,
organization. Thank
Except
you.
you're-
Now you really are
chairpersonship.
retired.
Yeah. Yay.
Are you gonna
I'll
be
find
pickleball
something
court even
else.
more?
I'll find something else to get involved with. But
Kudos to you as well. Congratulations and
but
thank you.
Leadership.
But I've really enjoyed working with the people on this committee. I find it to be just a group of really highly motivated, intelligent, people who really get things done. And that's been, that makes it fun, And I think one of the things that is so nice about a committee like this is you have people who have common interests and common goals. And so it facilitates the ability of the group to kind of come together and get things done. And,
And
so-
then one last thing, too, I want to recognize Douglas and Matt, and we've had John, and we've had Katie. This is an add-on. This was something new added on that you took on. This was a new committee, new responsibility, another hour or two after work. So, and you two have put a lot of effort and time into it. Thank you all for your
Yeah,
support,
we
for the things
appreciate
that we've
that.
been able to accomplish. And the last thing to say is, this was the first 3 years, right?
Yes,
of it.
uh-huh.
It's really just gotten started. So I hope that the people that take it next will build on what we have, make what we did better, and continue to push the council to think environmentally conscious as we make decisions about the future of the island, so.
Yeah, when you all think you meet 12 times a year for an hour, so you meet for 12 hours, so you have $15,000 budget. I mean, what this group has achieved in a relatively quick time with almost no budget truly is mind-blowing. I mean, I think, and I would also say, we kind of look at the interest of the community in these boards and commissions, and this one has kind of tenfold the interest than the others do. So that's really a testament to you all and all the good work you've done.
Thank you, Douglas.
It's been amazing to see.
I know, I'm going to start crying.
I'm sorry, meetings are so long.
No, I mean, it's.
Very
I think what that means is there was pent-up demand for this.
Yeah.
There was pent-up demand for a committee like this to add, another dimension to how we look at life on the island today and in the future.
And I think Susan Hill Smith was a great motivator.
She is. Where did she shift?
To
Yeah.
start this committee, wasn't she?
Right.
It was her
Yeah.
idea.
She's
It's
a
her-
never-ending catalyst.
We owe it to her.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm sorry,
All
Sandra,
right.
I just wanted to add those things.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. So, next meeting for Mary and Todd. And Douglas and Matt
I'll be here.
is going to be on Thursday,
Well,
January
just
the 9th.
really quick, you mentioned 2025 priorities.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Did you have like a quick little list? I'm curious.
I did,
what you-
I sent it to everybody, yeah.
Okay,
uh-huh.
yeah.
So, and I'll,
I don't want to, if my phone rings, I'll have to
Yeah,
take the
you
call,
got
it.
but I'll
Okay.
continue to stay
Yeah.
unless then.
So I just put together a few things that we had talked about in our meetings that seemed to be issues that were going to be ones that were ongoing for the future. And so certainly the Mary and Todd and the committee, that as you guys move forward, and you can modify that in whatever way you would like to and add to it. I know Mary gave me a couple of things today. So what I'll do is I will make a couple of revisions to what I sent out, and then I'll have Doug submit that in January to the group in January.
And Sandra, what I'll do is I'll make sure you have what we had put together for water. I'll forward that out to make sure you have that. That can be
Oh, I
forwarded
love,
as well.
yeah, I like
Okay.
that, yeah.
Make sure it's
Thank you very
included.
much. Yeah.
Sandra, you said that you would put this in final form, send it to us for distribution to
I'll
council.
send it to you. I'll send it to
me,
you,
I'll-
and then I guess the people who will need to get that it will be the group who is, will be council,
Yep, and then
and then
Nicole,
the,
we could put it in next month's minutes, I think,
Mm-hmm.
right? So they have, so we.
Is it true what I heard that the CEO of Exxon bought a house and he's going to be the chairman of this committee?
I have not heard that.
Oh, what a scamp. My only addition is working with Charleston County on the county climate action plan. I think it'd be a wonderful climate action item. They passed it, what is it, 3 months ago? They finally have a new sustainability person coming in on the county level whose job will be stewarding the county climate action plan. So in the new year, there will actually be opportunities to get involved as a municipality with that county cap. It'd be wonderful for IOP to be an active participant.
Is that Anna? Is Anna the new
It's
one?
actually Ally.
Oh, Ally.
Yeah.
okay, all right. And I think that, and then what I have from Mary, I'll add to those goals too. Okay,
Sorry, I
perfect.
didn't send it
No,
all.
that's okay, that's
I was
okay.
thinking about the garden.
Yeah. No,
The other
that's-
stuff.
No, that's fine. Okay, so our next meeting then is going to be, Thursday, January the 9th at 4 o'clock. And is there a motion to adjourn?
It's been a pleasure and an honor.
Yeah, one more
I forgot
time.
to say
Yeah.
that.
Nicole, and who does our
Amy Lee.
thank you all for your support and your time here as well. I wanna make
Absolutely.
sure we
Thank you so much.
Everybody that's been involved, so.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, the meeting's adjourned.
All in favor?